So I am recently, I found out about this woman named Paulette Harlow, who is a woman. Okay, so according to Joel Berry, and this is probably a conservative guy, a DC judge, and her name is Colleen Collar Catelli. Um, she just sentenced 75-year-old Paulette Harlow to 2 years in prison, and they say for praying outside an abortion clinic. Her husband fears she might die there. The thing is, she didn't just pray outside. She wasn't praying outside the abortion clinic. She literally blockaded. She was helping blockade the thing. So I want to take a look at the Department of Justice press release about it, and this is what they had to say. Final defendant sentence for federal conspiracy against rights and freedom of access to clinic entrances act convictions related to 2020 DC clinic invasion and blockade. Paulette Harlow was sentenced today, May 31st, 2024, to 24 months in prison following her convictions for federal conspiracy against rights and freedom of access to clinic entrances act offenses in connection with the blockade of a Washington D.C. area reproductive health clinic on October 22nd, 2020. Previously, Lauren Handy was sentenced to 57 months in prison. John Henshaw was sentenced to 21 months in prison. William Goodman was sentenced to 27 months in prison. Jonathan Darnell was sentenced to 34 months in prison. Herb Garati was sentenced to 27 months in prison. Gene Marshall was sentenced to 24 months in prison. John Bell was sentenced to 27 months in prison. And Heather Adani was sentenced to 24 months in prison. A 10th defendant, Jay Smith, was sentenced to prison following his guilty plea to a felony FACE Act offense on March 1st, 2023. I also hear that there's one of the defendants who were. Do they mention that here? Okay, yeah, they mention it here. I'll get to it later. Today, the final defendant was sentenced in an elaborate conspiracy by 10 people to intentionally and forcibly block patients and workers from accessing a reproductive health clinic while streaming it live online, said Assistant Director Michael Nordwall of the FBI's Criminal Investigation Division. The FBI will not stand for anyone who violates federal laws causing destruction, injury, or violent attacks like this one. We are dedicated to protecting the rights of all Americans to safely access medical services and ensuring providers can perform their duties freely. The defendants were convicted following three separate trials in 2023. Let's see. Idani is scheduled to be sentenced on a separate matter on June 30th or July 30th, following a conspiracy and FACE Act convictions in an unrelated clinic blockade from Tennessee. Evidence presented at trial established that the defendants used force and physical obstruction to execute a clinic blockade that was organized by the group's leaders, Handy and Darnell. The defendants planned and organized the clinic invasion using a social media, text messages, and phone calls, and several co-conspirators, including defendants Henshaw, Goodman, Garrity, Marshall, Bell, Harlow, Adani, and Smith, traveled from the Northeast and Midwestern states to participate in the blockade. Prior to the clinic incursion, the defendants met with other co-conspirators to plan their crime, which included making a fake patient appointment to ensure the group's entry into the clinic, using chains and locks to barricade the facility, and passively resist their anticipated arrest to prolong the blockade. The clinic invasion was advertised on social media as a historic event that was live streamed on Facebook. The defendants' forced entry into the clinic at the outset of the invasion resulted in injury to a clinic nurse. During the blockade, one patient had to climb through a receptionist window to access the clinic, while another laid in the hallway outside of the clinic in physical distress, unable to gain access to the clinic. The FBI Washington field office investigated the case, and prosecutors from the Civil Rights Division and the U.S. Attorney's Office for the District of Columbia prosecuted the case. So pretty much, it's so funny how when it's conservative activity that they like to say, oh, have patience, have mercy. But then again, when it was DeRay McKesson, they're like, oh no, throw him under the jail because he was a part of a protest and some person threw a rock. We don't even know if the rock was thrown. We don't even know if he's claiming injury. We don't even know what's going on with that. But he was the DeRay McKesson was the organizer of this protest, so he has to be held physically responsible. So they're concerned that she might die in prison. I mean, if she is in poor health, okay. Like y'all wouldn't have extended that to George Floyd. I really don't care, honestly. Like they say, can't do the time, don't do the crime. So, and it's so funny how like she's getting soft gloves from conservative media, of course, because they agree with it. Um, they would agree with it. See you soon. Have a great day.